Israel plans strike on Iran nuclear facilities. With that, giving all praise, glory, and honor that's due to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rachach, Wadash, double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and blessing to the 144,000 and the hopeful elect. Shalom, Barakatham. And this is what we've all been waiting on for World War III, which will be the end of America and the Edomite hegemony as you know it. Okay, I'm speaking colloquially known as the West, and NATO, that whole alliance of the so-called white empire, which includes South Africa, includes Australia. Okay, and wherever you see, Satan, basically. Okay, finagling things and doing his will on the earth through subtleties and witchcraft, while promoting himself to be the world police, the savior. All right, to start it off, the precept that comes to mind was Daniel 8:25, which is speaking about Antiochus, but we know the same playbook comes out. This is Daniel 8:25. It says, and through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. Now, the guy Donald Trump happened to have a term called peace through strength. Okay, and what did that entail? Okay, ramping up the military budget when he promised he would cut it in half. Then he ramped it up. Okay, all right. And then that involved bombing the Houthis. Okay, who are really just defending themselves and their allies in that conflict in the Middle East. That involved helping the guy Netanyahu accomplish his plan, which is the real root of the lesson, is the least of the flock, which the scriptures speak about, which I'm going to get in a second. Okay, there's going to be a day, and I saw Jimmy Dore do a video on this, where America, you get yanked into this war, man. It doesn't really matter what you say. The scriptures already spoke about how this thing is going to end, and it's going to end with World War III, and the Iranians or the Persians are going to be instrumental into that. Okay, so the fact that we're going to war with Iran, okay, which are the Persians, all right, that tells you right there this thing is going to happen. Okay, and it's basically happening. It says, let me finish this, and it says, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace he shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. And that's going to happen again. The prince of princes, or Michael, is gonna show up with Yahweh Shai, the angels and the heavenly hosts. Okay, to do what? The war of Armageddon. Okay, the war of Armageddon. What's that? Get it again. Revelation 12. Okay, this is Revelation 12:7. It says, and there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels. So if you know what the dragon is or who the dragon is, and you say the war in heaven, all right, this is not going to be in outer space. Okay, this is going to be with Esau's fighter jets and his aircraft technology. All right, on the earth. Okay, that means the Lord is coming here with angels. Okay, with Michael. All right, and they're going to fight against the Lord. And it says, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. Okay, this is how it's going to end. All right, and that's what we're here to tell you, how it's going to end. Okay, we're not getting distracted by Diddy. All right, we're watching what these people are doing in the Middle East. We're watching the news for these technological advancements for the Karagma, which is basically here. Okay, because that has to happen, and then World War III. That's the last two prophecies, major events that need to occur. Okay, which I believe they'll happen in rapid succession. Okay, if not at the same time. All right. It says, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan. So now you know why we call these people the devil or Satan, because the scriptures call him that. Okay? You got to ask, who is the dragon? What is that referring to? It's referring to the Roman Empire and the reincarnation of it. All right? If they're being called the devil and Satan, then why are you trying to save them? Okay? They have their purpose. That's to be the devil, the adversary on the earth. Okay? And Yahweh Shai, the only begotten Son of the Most High, he's here to establish order, and that's how his kingdom is going to get set up. He's going to come back and throw them down, okay, with the heavenly host, violently, okay, and then the kingdom of heaven is set up. All right, it says he was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Okay, so the Christians will try to tell you this happened before, before the heavens were created, or the earth was created. Satan got kicked out. All right, he took 2/3 of the angels with him. And he's been challenging the Most High's power and authority the whole time. No, Satan is doing the perfect will of the Father. Okay, nobody can resist the will of the Most High, point blank, period. Not even Satan. Okay, Satan is a power. He's a God, but he's not the God. Okay, he has his purpose, and his purpose is to be the resistance of righteousness on the earth, man. Because the Lord, like I did a lesson, the Lord is writing a movie, and he has protagonists and antagonists. Okay, he has good guys, bad guys, heroes and villains. Okay, Satan is just playing his part. Okay, and the satanic counterpart in the earth are the Edomites. Okay, and the righteous counterparts on the earth are the Israelites. Okay, that's what the Lord set up. Anyway, going back, okay, to this nonsense that Netanyahu is trying to get on. All right, this is Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 45. It says, "Therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh, that he hath taken against Babylon, and his purposes, that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. All right, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them." Okay, so the least of the flock is going to be drawn out. Is going to draw them out. What does that mean? I'm going to go to it actually. The word should be Tazayar, young or least. Yep, Tazayar. It says little, insignificant, young. Okay, and what do you have among the latest of the Edomite hegemony? What nation came to be the latest? Okay, what year? 1948. Okay, that's them. That's them. That they're going to be the ones to draw this thing out. Okay, look at this. Is a headline I saw. Maybe I don't see it anymore. Hold on. See if it'll pop up. Breaking. Israel plans Iran nuclear site bombings. Okay, so this is prophesied. This very thing. The scriptures are on point, man. They don't give you every single point of what's going to happen, but it gives you very good specifics. Okay, so we know when to sound the alarm. We know when to go into the scriptures and start bringing it out. All right. Now let me pull this. Just to further show you that the Iranians are going to be involved. This is 2 Ezra 15. All right. 2 Ezra chapter 15, verse 27. "For now are the plagues come upon the whole earth, and ye shall remain in them. For the Most High shall not deliver you, because ye have sinned against them." So this is gonna the plagues that are gonna hit America. It's gonna expand out to the whole world. Okay, Europe is gonna be in distress. All the nations are gonna be in distress, and part of it is gonna be because it's gonna be a world war. Okay, when world war starts, remember all of the supply chains, all of these things get choked up. Okay, you think your people are panicking about food on the shelves? Now wait until World War III starts. Okay. Y'all don't realize how reliant you are on those other nations for your sense of comfort here, especially these Western nations, South Africa, Australia, Okay, y'all rely on countries like China and Russia and Iran and the geography that they occupy to get things done. Okay, Europe relies on Russia for energy. Okay, y'all relying on Iran pacifying you so you can get the whatchamacallits, the freight carriers, the big shipping containers through the Strait of Hormuz, man. Okay, y'all rely on China to manufacture a lot of the goods, including military weapons, man. Okay, and China, Iran, and Russia, they have a common interest now. Okay, that wasn't the case 20, 30 years ago, but now it is, because you weaponized the U.S. dollar. You've been throwing your weight around, setting up coups, okay, freezing people's assets, assassinating leaders. All right, and you're being proud and bold, and there's no end in sight. You keep printing money, knowing that all of these other nations are holding your currency, and you keep printing it. Okay, only to overspend. You know, so they're tired of you, man. They're sick of you. Okay, so now they have a common interest together. That's what BRICS is about. All right, verse 28. 2nd Ezra chapter 15 verse 28, behold, an horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east. Who's in the east? Okay, the Iranians. All right, the Iranians are in the east. And when I was reading, I was watching an old breakdown of the apostles earlier of Revelation 13th chapter, and they were going into the Medo-Persian Empire. Okay, and they spoke about them coming from the east. Actually, I may go to it real quick. I believe it was in Daniel 8. Yep, Daniel 8:3. It says, then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns. Okay, what were the 2 horns? What does that represent? Okay, that was the Medes and the Persians. They were separate empires. They became one. Okay, the Persians basically took over. All right, and it says, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other. Which one was higher than the other? The Persians. The Persians ended up taking over, and then you had the Medo-Persian Empire, but it was ruled out of who? The Persians ruled them. The Cyrus began that dynasty. Okay, I forget the name of the Achaemenid dynasty, maybe. It says, and the higher came up last. See? So the Persians, they were together, then the Persians outdid them, and they came up. But look what it says. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward. Okay? Notice what it didn't say. It didn't say eastward. Why didn't it say eastward? Okay? Because they were coming from the east. Okay? This is the same people, and it's going to happen again. All right? It says, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. Okay? You see? So this happened already. Now, if you go back to Jeremiah 51 and 11, it says, make bright the arrows, gather the shield. This is the end time right here. Okay, the eschaton. I'll start at verse 10. Jeremiah 51:10. The Lord Yahweh hath brought forth our righteousness, and come and let us declare in Zion the work of the Lord Yahweh our power. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. All right, this is speaking about get ready for war. Okay, which we're at right now. You can read Joel chapter 3 for that. All right, it says, the Lord hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes. So just like the Medes came to take down the Neo-Babylonian Empire, okay, and it says none could deliver out of their hands in Daniel 8. This is going to happen again, okay? But this time, they're not going to have a rulership. Yahweh Shai and the angels are going to show up this time. That's what we just read in Revelation 12, okay? And it says, for his device is against Babylon, okay? You see? They're against Babylon. That's who they're against this time, okay? They were back in the ancient world, and they're against them again. This is one of the reasons why the scriptures refer to them as Babylon, okay? not just because spiritually they're into the same idolatry, but the same events that happened to Babylon are going to happen, okay? It's manifold. It says, for his devices against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh, the vengeance of his temple, okay? So you could read more on that. Yeah, because it speaks about Babylon being inhabited. And I believe there are a lot of Iranian nationals here. I'll just say that. You know, there's way more people than there are on the census here. When they had those borders open for I don't know how long, and nobody's paying attention. They just started reporting on it, you know, a couple years after it started happening. They're here already, okay? And you read more on that. It speaks about the caterpillars and Babylon being filled up with caterpillars. Okay, what do caterpillars do? Okay, they eat up a lot of the vegetation. Okay, they weaken you and decay you. Okay, you know. But going back to 2nd Esdras chapter 15, verse 28 again, it says, "Behold." Now that we have more context, it says, "Behold, an horrible vision and an appearance thereof from the east." Esdras saw this, man. Okay, he saw this. All right, so let me keep going. It says, verse 29, "Where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth." All right, it says that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. All right, so this is a coalition of the Arabian nations, okay, and it's not just going to be Iran. Remember, Israel had a plan to take out 7 countries in 5 years, okay? They named Libya, they named Ethiopia, they named Iraq, they named Lebanon and Syria, okay? And they named Iran, okay? There's a couple other ones in there that I missed, okay? Did I say Iraq? Yeah, Iraq, Libya, Ethiopia, Syria, Iran. I'm missing a couple more, you know. But so you don't think they know that y'all have this plan for the greater Israel over there? They know, man. Okay, it says, "And the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble." This just goes into the prophecy of the Euphrates River drying up. Okay, but listen, verse 30, it says, "Also the Carmanians raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood." I'm going to look up what Carmanians are, okay, for edification. The Carmanians were an ancient Iranian people who inhabited the region of Carmania, a province in ancient Persia, located on the northern shore of the Persian Gulf, modern day Kerman. Okay, so modern day Kerman, when you look up the Persian Gulf, that leads right, the Persian Gulf, there's 2 rivers that come out of the top of the Persian Gulf. That's the Euphrates and the Tigris, okay? Maybe I can get a map of it. Let me see if it'll pull it up. Okay. Let me see here. See a good image I can get. Okay, that's the Persian Gulf. Okay, you can see at the top right here, that's the Euphrates and the Tigris River. Okay, so they were in the northern part of Iran, That's where Carmania is. They're going to come out of there, okay? It says, verse 30 again, also the Carmanians raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them. Okay? So there's going to be a great coalition going westward. It says, and they shall come and join battle with them and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. Okay? So they're gonna, that means when you look at Assyria, that's what? That's across the Euphrates. Okay? The Syria is basically bordered to the Euphrates, okay? It says, and then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, and if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them, then these shall be troubled, then these shall be troubled, bled, and keep silence through their power and flee. And from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them and consume some of them, and then their host shall be fear and dread and strife among their kings. All right? And ain't gonna be nothing they can do about it. And I believe though that major base over there in Kuwait, that's gonna get destroyed because they have those hypersonic missiles, which you can't defend against. Okay, those missiles move entirely too fast. So even without nukes, you're outmatched. Okay. It says, and then Russia's gonna deal with the rest of you. Okay, Russia's gonna deal with the rest of America. All right. It says, verse 34, behold, clouds from the east and from the north and unto the south, and they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm. And they shall smite one upon another, and they shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth, even their own star, and the blood shall be from the sword unto the belly, and the dung of men unto the camel's hoe. Okay? Yeah, this keeps going. I'll read verse 37. It says, and there shall be great fearfulness and trembling upon the earth. Okay, the whole earth is going to be trembling. All right. It says, and they that see the wrath shall be afraid, and trembling shall come upon them, and then shall there come great storms from the south and from the north, and another part from the west. Okay. In other words, the gathering of all of the world's, air forces and different things of that nature and that's when it's gonna pop off. Okay. And then you can go to Revelation 12 to see how that gets dealt with, which we read, Michael and his angels, man. So prophecy is on the move while everybody's watching the Diddy trial and trying to, see how nasty he was with Cassie. All they need is one false flag. I watched that show, the Jimmy Dore show. He did a video recently speaking about how the war with Iran is basically on. It's on. They're only one false flag away. Okay, one. Okay, if this happens and they go to war, okay, all the CIA or whoever, Amalek, he's gonna do something to force America, okay, to get involved, okay, just like they did in Pearl Harbor, just like they did sinking the Lusitania in World War I, okay, to get America involved and to get, really, it's not America. America already, the elites at the top, they already want to be involved, but they have to convince the American people, okay? They have to make you feel okay about it because your life is about to turn upside down. And if you don't have the charagma, all right, in this wartime economy, you're going to be through. You're going to be out of there, okay? Anyway, I'll end it there, man. Lord willing, this is edifying. Call halal Yahweh ba'ashim Yahweh Shai ba'hashim rachak v'dash shalom. I'm Yashua.